This is not appropriate for a baby.
Yeah, like I don't know how child development works. Maybe the kid's not making memories yet. I feel like 2 hours of like gratuitous terrorism gunning down people in a hotel is like not good for a baby.
Yeah, I know. It can't be good for a baby. It's barely good for adults.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spoiler Warning Podcast. This is review number 554 with a review of Hotel Mumbai. I'm Christopher Schnese.
And I'm Stephen Miller.
And for joining us for the first time, the Spoiler Warning Podcast is a weekly film review program. Each week in the show, we're going to dive in, debate, discuss, and argue over the latest film releases coming to a theater near you. This week, already in your feeds, you will have heard a review of Dumbo. So if you skip that, you might want to go check it out. We may or may not have fun with that already. If we can peel back the curtain a little bit, we are actually recording that episode after this one, but it'll be released before this one. Mm-hmm. So that's the fun magic of podcasting.
Yeah, I'd rather be more sober for Hotel Mumbai than Dumbo.
Yeah, I mean, technically we could watch them in reverse over, and we would become more sober.
It's true.
But for better or worse, we are going to do that review first, so we can have that there. But you're already listening to this, so I don't know why I'm telling you that. It's starting off real great.
Time travel.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have any questions to lead into. Have you stayed at the Taj, Stephen?
I have not stayed at the Taj, but I did. So I did a trip to India with my girlfriend this December, and I stayed at like a bunch of the other types of hotels they mentioned here. So I didn't go to Mumbai, but I went to Calcutta and Delhi and Agra and other places. And one place I stayed at is the Oberoi Grand. And I checked, there is no relation between that hotel and Chef Oberoi, who's in this movie. But the Oberoi Grand was also in the 2008 Mumbai like attack. It just wasn't one of the hotels that they featured in this movie.
Gotcha.
So it was kind of like, it added a little extra layer of like, ooh, wow, this feels like familiar.
Yeah.
It also, so when I went, all of the fancy hotels, they would have metal detectors when you enter.
Okay.
And I would bet you anything that like came after the 2008
post,
attacks.
yeah.
So that was an interesting thing. I have two topics we can talk about as pre-review bits because I maybe don't want to corrupt the review with them. One, I want to start with, I want to hear from you. Am I a bad person or not?
So, I mean, the answer is yes. But
yeah. So you and I use AMC A-List to get reservations, and I saw both movies this weekend at an AMC. And so this time I reserved kind of at the last minute Hotel Mumbai because I was going to see another movie, and then I flipped the order at the last minute. And all that was left was a really terrible seat, like one seat. It was a small theater. It was way in the front on the far right side. But it was the only one, so I took it. Why not? And I told myself, like, okay, remember when you are like, when the showtime is about to start, check again, because maybe one will open up, because assholes probably they reserve a seat and then they change their mind at the last minute and don't go anymore.
Yeah.
So I didn't remember until like at the exact showtime. So I saw there was a free seat that was 2 rows back, dead center. It was way better, like way better seat. But there is no way to change your seats with AMC A-List. And after the showtime begins, so trailers started, you cannot cancel anymore.
Okay. Oh, you mean like it literally, you opened the app and it was now available?
Yeah, I opened the app and checked. Yeah. It was available. So what I did was...
Took the seat.
I took the seat and waited for the 7-minute timer. Like, I never checked it out, and I did that 4 times in a row.
Like, you just kept clicking on the seat, but not buying it.
Yeah, to make sure that nobody else could take the seat until the movie had been, like, for 10 minutes, and then I knew, like, okay, now I'm safe. Nobody's going to come in and take it. So I ask you, was that wrong? Because technically someone at the last minute could have been like, oh, are there any seats left? And they would have seen the answer is no.
So here's the thing. Yes, it was wrong, but not for the reason you're asking me.
Oh, wow.
It is wrong because this required you to have your cell phone out during the film.
There was only a single click during the film, and it was it's literally like back forwards. Like, it's super easy. I didn't even have to look at anything. I hear you.
So given if we can pretend that you did not disturb anybody while doing this on your phone.
I definitely didn't, because the guys on either side of me were like literally texting the whole time.
Okay, so then maybe you weren't disturbing anybody.
And it was like the first 3 minutes of the movie that I did it. Like the credits were still coming up.
Yeah. Well, in the order of operations, the first sin was using your phone in the theater. The second thing is, I think, given this circumstance, that seat was probably not going to disappear. Like, chances are there wasn't like a singleton coming to the theater to go see this film, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I think you were probably okay. It was a little shady, but I don't think you're a bad person for doing it.
Now, would it have been better for me to sit there and wait? Because I didn't want to wait and see if it filled up, because other people who were in the very front were definitely roving around. Like, there are always people who are sneaking into the theater who don't have a seat. So I didn't want to wait and let one of those people take it instead of me. But I also didn't want to sit there without knowing that it was blocked, because I don't want to be like worried at any moment that someone's going to come up in the middle of the movie and tell me that I'm in their seat, you know?
And you were in good faith attempting to purchase that ticket.
Yeah.
And you were trying to free up your previous ticket.
I almost texted and asked if you could reserve it for me, like if you had an extra.
See, that could have actually worked. Though it depends.
But then you would have burned your extra, because you can't cancel after the movie starts.
Yeah, but so it would only affect me if I was trying to see a third film this weekend, which I wasn't.
Yeah.
So interesting conundrum you had there. I think you're okay.
The moral is AMC should have a change seat option on your reservation instead of cancel and don't cancel.
Well, I mean, think about it. You are quite the edge case. Like, it was literally a completely full theater and then one freed up. You probably could have walked out to the front desk and said, like, hey, when I booked it was fully free. Can you please switch my seat? And they probably would have just done it for you. So that would be the quote unquote best way to do it. But Theater 13, which sorry, which theater were you in? Theater 4?
Yeah, Theater 4.
Yeah. So that was right next to the desk. You could totally have run out in enough time and be like, quickly, can you say something? And it probably would have been fine.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's not just an edge case, because I also had it a few weeks ago where I was next to a very, very, very loud group of people. And I liked my seat, but I was like, fuck it, I'm going to sit somewhere else.
Yeah.
And at that moment, if there had been a change seat option, it would have been way better than me like finding a place and waiting for someone to tell me it was their seat and then continually moving. You know? Yeah. Anyway. Okay, you answered one question. Number 2, I hear you had a subpar viewing experience.
Yes, I had. I feel like you're setting me up to one-up me. But for me, I was sat next to an old woman who was not prepared at all to watch a film with excessive terrorist activity happening on screen. I honestly have no idea what she was doing in the theater. But this is an older woman, bless her soul, who came into the theater late.
Yep.
Struggled a lot to get up the stairs, stood in the seat next to me as she slowly took her jacket off and put her bag down, and then slowly sat in her seat, and then slowly fucking played on Instagram, and then sat to see the movie. And
Instagram, that's a surprise, actually.
Yeah, think about Instagram, because she was a grandma.
Gotta get the jokes out early.
But no, so basically every single death in this film, whether telegraphed or not, whether a surprise, whether gratuitous or not, both legs, both arms in the air. Whoa! Oh! She just was not prepared for this film.
Now there's a moment in this film where an elderly woman who is racist expresses some things. Was she making any like affirming noises during that part?
She did not say or anything like that.
Okay, so I'll meet your old lady and raise you a baby.
Oh no.
Yeah. When this movie started, I heard while it was beginning, I heard the cries of a baby. I was like, this must be in the movie. Nobody brought their fucking baby, but they did. There was a baby in this movie the whole fucking time.
And nobody even thought to go look, this is not appropriate for a baby.
Yeah, like I don't know how child development works. Maybe the kid's not making memories yet. I feel like 2 hours of gratuitous terrorism, gunning down people in a hotel is like not good for a baby.
Yeah, I know it can't be good for a baby. It's barely good for adults.
Yeah, and I was like so angry when I realized there was a baby in that theater. Like, I don't know what your reasons are, maybe you can't afford a babysitter, whatever, but you didn't need to see Hotel Mumbai tonight. Like, It isn't like this is like a big...
Arguably, you might not need to see Hotel Mumbai ever.
Yeah, it's not like a big event that like, oh, you had to see it, everyone was talking about. Like, just don't fucking... Go see Dumbo, see anything else. Oh, God.
Yeah, maybe they thought they were seeing Dumbo.
I couldn't... the moment the kid cried, I was like, I'm going to tell Chris about this.
They were like... We were going to sit in the front to be quiet, but this jerkwad took the seat, and then we tried to get the other available seat, and somebody took that too.
I looked around to get like confirmation that this was fucking crazy, and then both other people were on their cell phones, so I was like, fuck everybody in this movie theater.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds like good. I mean...
Feels good to get that off my chest.
Without going into too much spoilers... This movie's not appropriate for babies.
No, definitely not.
I can stand behind that. I mean, I think that's the official stance of the Spoiler Warning podcast.
I mean, there's a reason when you have like little kids in movies that have horrific stuff, people go to great lengths to say like the way they filmed it, the kid wasn't in the room at the same time as other things, the kid doesn't know what they were doing. Don't bring a baby to this movie.
No. And without going into too many spoilers, there's a baby in this movie.
Yeah.
So, at the very least, the baby might be able to imprint and watch activities and... maybe go like, oh, that baby.
Yeah.
But anyways, what do you say we get to our review of Hotel Mumbai?
Let's do it.
All right, we're going to listen to the trailer for Hotel Mumbai and then come back and give you a review.
Bye. Goodbye.
Welcome to the Taj, home to statesmen and celebrities for over a century.
Wow. Remember always, here at the Taj.
Thank you. We hope we'll have a good stay.
Guest is God.
Oh, look at that. It's amazing. There's a whole nother room back here. Let's move.
In Mumbai, with multiple bombings and armed gunmen rampaging through the city.
Let them in!
Look, I don't think you understand. There's been an attack and we're not safe. Switch off the lights. Under the tables.
Terrorists have laid siege to the landmark Taj. With as many as 1,000 guests and over 500 staff trapped inside.
We should try to gather whoever we can. Many of you have families at home. There is no shame in leaving.
I've been here 35 years. This is my home.
You don't know how many there are, where they are.
Local police are simply not trained to deal with attacks of this magnitude.
Don't open the door, it's them! Out!
My kid's upstairs. Do you have a family?
Yes. And I hope to stay alive and see them.
No one's coming for us.
We go down the back stairs and straight out the service exit.
If they hear us, we'll all die. We take our chances.
I'm scared.
We all are. But to get through this, we must stick together.
All right, so that was the trailer for Hotel Mumbai. It is a dramatization of real-life events that happened in 2008, where a group of terrorists attacked several different major tourist locations in Mumbai, and it is kind of the story of the people who are held up in this hotel known as the Taj and what they do to try to live through these horrible attacks that are happening. Stephen Miller, what did you think of Hotel Mumbai?
I feel really uncertain of how I'm supposed to feel with this movie. And I think it's similar to like the Paul Greengrass movies like United 93 and 22nd of July. It's this feeling of like taking a thing that was like fairly recent in history, that was like very tragic and violent, and making a movie about it that is paced and shot in an intense, dramatic way that keeps you on the edge of your seat. It, like, the premise alone, I felt kind of gross about this movie. And I feel like it's like fairly well made. It's like fairly well acted. Like, the people in it, I think, are pretty good at playing the roles. I think Dev Patel is really good. Armie Hammer and Nazanin from Homeland. I don't know how you pronounce her name right. Like, they sell their roles very well. Like, I think the movie definitely like had me on the edge of my seat the whole time. But the whole time I was watching it, I was just thinking, like, why am I here? Like, what the fuck am I doing in this movie theater? Like, there are, and especially the way it begins, this is not a movie that gives you a lot of reprieve or anything at the beginning. This is a movie that the opening shot of the movie is terrorists from Pakistan on a boat arriving and setting up their guns to begin this attack on the city of Mumbai.
Yeah.
And like from then on, it is just kind of nonstop, like mowing into innocent people at a train station and like gunning down people at a restaurant and gunning down people in the lobby of a hotel. And it, like, the reason I feel conflicted is like, maybe if these events were ones that like shook me, like if it was like a national thing that I experienced, maybe there'd be something cathartic in like putting it on screen and showing me the like how dark those days were, or praising the heroism of it. But there aren't specific heroes in this movie either. Like the guests, at least as we've discussed off mic, are all fictionalized as far as I can tell. The staff, at least Dev Patel, is completely fictionalized in this movie. The chef is the only like real person in it, and I don't know. It feels so weird because like I want to like criticize it on the decisions certain characters make in this movie, but then I don't know, like, do I even want to like nitpick that when it's like an actual fucking thing that killed a lot of people? I just felt really, really, really weird watching this movie, and I didn't know like what am I supposed to feel, because I'm not rooting for people.
Yeah.
I'm not taking joy from the bloodshed. It is very, very, very relentless in its like, there are at least like 25 solid minutes of this movie where no one has any hope and it's just gunning down people while they're running.
Yeah.
And there was a moment that I thought was really indicative of the like contradictions of this movie. It happens kind of early in, when the terrorists have arrived and they're in the lobby and they've shot at everyone and people are freaking out, right? They're hiding behind things. They're trying to survive. They've run away, and Armie Hammer is starting to like sneak out for the first time because he wants to be reunited with his kid. And he turns and looks, and there's another guy who was, I think, a hotel staff member, an Indian guy, who is
he
like,
might have just been a guest.
Yeah, he might have been a guest. But he like gives him a look and starts to sneak away in a kind of like semi-exaggerated sneak. And my audience like fucking laughed when he was sneaking. Like, they laughed, and then he got gunned down 5 seconds later.
Yeah.
And I don't really blame my audience. It's like nobody knows what to do in this movie.
So I think that this film attempts to deal pretty on the nosely in a lot of spots with like racism and like all of the characters who are tourists have their assumptions about the groups that are attacking and other people that may or may not look like them. And I think that part of the humor in that moment may stem from the fact that it's not clear whether the film wants you to think that Armie Hammer is worried that he might be a terrorist. Like, there's some sort of confusion where they both look at each other like, that guy doesn't know what he's going to do, and he doesn't know what that guy's going to do. And they're no longer concerned about the guy who's down the hallway with the gun, and they're more worried about each other. That scene is shot extremely weird. And I remember looking at that going like, am I supposed to believe that like Armie? I couldn't figure out what that scene was supposed to mean.
Yeah.
Nobody laughed in my theater, but I could understand that there was like a laughing at Armie Hammer, not the guy sneaking.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's my, like, if I can cast something out and just assume what that crowd is laughing at. Maybe it was that.
Maybe it's just, and again, like, there's no right or wrong answer, because like a movie that is just dour is not a great experience. A movie that has moments of uplift, if they're not earned, isn't a great experience. And because like the people in this film are primarily not real people, it isn't like it's telling their story faithfully. Like I just don't know what to do with this movie. I wonder how you feel about it.
Yeah, I think that I kind of was all over the map while watching this film. I think that at the beginning of it, I was, in a way, impressed is not the word, but I was like, it was the first time that I've seen terrorist activities not heightened stylistically, like the way, like, you know, a normal, like a Die Hard type movie, right? It's like, oh, they come in and they're like, oh, these scary terrorists.
Yeah.
Like, this was just very straightforward without feeling extreme violence that wasn't bad guys reveling in it, but just people just gunning down people with zero care in the world. And there was something about what it was doing that made me feel, like, to its credit, like I was appalled in a way that, like, I'm not normally just appalled when there's a bunch of people shooting in a movie where, like, the heroes are going to shoot them back later, right? Yeah. It was different than anything else we were seeing. You know, it was different than the scenes in Triple Frontier, right? Like, this was just like, there was something about it that was off-putting in a different way. It felt realistic, and it felt like, yeah, terrorism is just an act with no, like, there's no conscious, like, oh, we're going to go here and take this building. It's like, just shoot everyone and just shoot them because, and knock on people's doors, and when they open it, just shoot them. And there's not like we're going to shoot the people we need to take over this place so that we can make a stance. It's like, no, just kill all the people and make sure people see you killing it. And there was something about the way they presented that information, or that just the way we were watching it felt strange to me in a way that I'd never kind of experienced watching these type of films before. So I was kind of like, well, at least it's doing something compelling a little bit in that way. But I think that the reason why I kind of went back and forth, not even back and forth, but all over the map, is because I felt uncomfortable in other ways that was really strange. Like, so there is, in this attack, there were 11 people that they knew about, I guess, and let's just say most of them die, right? So we don't have the accounts from those people to say whatever they were doing. And even if they captured all 11 people, who's to say those people would have said anything other than, we were here to kill infidels, right? Like, there's no like manifesto besides kill infidels and make sure the world watches us. So the fact that they make the leader who's talking to them on the phones so evil and just so disgustingly, like, there's literally lines where just like, oh, leave the speakers on so that we can hear their cries. Yeah, and it just
very heightened.
It's very heightened, and it's in a film that is doing a seemingly good job of just feeling very down to earth and real. To make the villain so villainous and make him be this thing where it's like, now it rings false to me. So I'm like, it's not that I'm defending the terrorists, going like, well, I don't think they were that bad. It's that, like, you don't know what that conversation was, and you are choosing to write them as the purest form of evil when they're just like zealots, right? Like, they're yes, they're evil, they're bad, but you don't know what they were saying, and you're trying to write the evilest dialogue that you can come up with. And that kind of felt weird. Then you have the problem of, it's painfully obvious that all of the guests are just invented characters to give us people to care about, because we're going to some random hotel somewhere, and like, what if there was just tourists there and that we care about them instantly because we're going to follow these people? And you know that it's like, okay, cool, we're going to follow these few groups of people just long enough to care about them before they get dispatched, right? Like, that's what you expect. And I think that, like, there was something about seeing these, like, you have the Russian guy who is supposed to be despicable so that he can come redeem himself at some point. There are, like, the people who are just like, we don't care about this country, ha 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 ha. And then, like, oh shit, they have to, like, really care about this country because they're trapped here. And I feel that, like, all of the archetypes of these extra characters are there just to pad up this thing because they just don't want 90 minutes of straight gunfire. They want to, like, have downtime where characters can cry together and make you feel for them. And then let's just show all the old white racist people who are scared of beards. And it's just like, there are things that like, you were doing a thing that made me feel one thing, and then now you're making my brain work instead of just my gut reaction to things. And now I just can't like follow what you're doing, and nothing seems worth it. Not that it felt worth it before, but it's a thing where like, as you pile on filmic things to this, it starts to fall apart in a way that like gets quite annoying, I think.
Yeah, I definitely see the weird tension there. So for me, the same thing that made it down to earth, like the lack of feeling, was also a thing that I felt very uncomfortable with, because and again, I don't know the details of the attack really. Like I remember headlines when it happened, but I didn't like learn very much about it at the time. The terrorists, toward the end of the film, it tries to get into the like, what are their motives, and you know, they're also just poor young people who've been like told that this is the only way. And there's obviously political stuff of Pakistan and India, and like the Pakistani people seeing India as having all the wealth and stuff. But that is so like, that's so undercut by the way that they just care not at all as they're like mowing through people.
Yeah.
And just like the amount of time that is spent like watching them like make no face at all or just smile and keep going is like, it's very strange. And it's not propaganda either. It's just like, it's just weird. Like I just found it very weird and uncomfortable. I also thought like it's clear that the guests are invented for us to have like an anchor into the film, but it's like, it's kind of weird to me too that in a movie that is set in a hotel in India, where clearly there are guests from all over the world, the people that we are meant to care about are Armie Hammer and his wife, who I don't know if she's meant to be like Indian in this movie. She's Iranian, like the actual actress, and her being Muslim means maybe she's meant to be that in the movie too. I don't know. The Russian dude, an Australian backpacker, and like,
well, so they,
it's like, oh, but white people also. So like, that's where you're going to see like what you would feel in this moment.
So,
it's just
so
weird.
they do address it from the terrorist standpoint within the context of the thing, is they want people of wealth with passports that the rest of the world will pay attention to this. So it's not just something that's happening on the other side of the globe and no one cares. They specifically want to find Americans and things, so that where like this news coverage goes as far as possible, because they don't want this to be an isolated thing where just some people in the area are upset. They want the world to watch. So that sort of makes sense.
So that makes sense from who was taken hostage.
Yeah.
Like the
POV. The way they wrote those characters is terrible.
well, because for me, like the people who show acts of heroism depicted in the movie. So again, I have no idea about the real world implications of these. Are Dev Patel's character. He is the substitute for all staff people who chose to act bravely, right? That's kind of his role. Armie Hammer, who is like taking initiative and trying to like go out and find his baby. His actions aren't really logical in any way, and I can't really imagine some of the things he does being what people would do in that moment, but I don't know.
I mean, people try to be heroes all the time.
The Russian guy, but like it's just weird to me that it seems like it's only like the white rich people that get to show that they're like braver than their circumstances in a way that is like kind of odd. And I know it's because I'm supposed to be anchored to them, and that's why. But it just seemed really weird to me. And even the whole thing, which again, like I'm sure it is a real event, and like the last few minutes of footage are pretty affecting, where like every movie based on a real thing, they like cut to something about the real life people involved and talk about that. So like it is celebrating the staff members who chose to stay behind. But like even the way that's framed, where it's like the movie starts by showing how insanely luxurious it is, and the mantra that the guest is God, and then people stay because the guest is God. Like it's just like it feels like a weird one thing to be praising, like without giving me examples of like, I don't know. The whole formulation just like made me feel kind of like gross in the way it's like, look, all these people with personality were rescued by staff who think the guest is God, we're not going to show you much of the staff, but like just know that they all were gunned down to help. I don't know.
So there is an aspect to the staffs, all the staff members in the film that I actually thought was kind of compelling, because it didn't feel like a place where like the staff members were depicted as like being really proud to be there and be part of that. And like, it wasn't just that they were repeating the mantra, guest is God, and that's why they were staying. There were people who felt like a duty and an honor and like trying to protect people. Like I thought there was like a couple of really affecting scenes involving like one of the women who works at the front desk where like guns are going off.
Yeah.
And she immediately grabs the nearest phone and starts dialing room by room in a way that like the terrorists are right there. Like they're definitely going to hear you. And she selflessly is just dialing room by room saying like, there is a security issue. Please don't open your door for any reason. Okay, hang up, next room. And just one by one. And like, there's little tiny nuggets of these selfless acts of people just like doing something that is clearly not good for them just because they want to protect the people who picked that hotel to be in. And like, I thought that was like, there was several moving displays of people just wanting to be there without having to say things like guest is God, that like, I thought was actually like a touching thing that this film did that like, I enjoyed.
So yeah, I agree. There are moments like that, like small things. It just feels like the weight isn't given to that compared to the more like broadly heroic. And maybe it's just a pacing thing because it needs to give us something of like, will they, won't they, will they make it, like what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
And the way they do that is by following the guests who are trapped. And so they make it way more about family and how you would risk anything to save your family. And I don't know. I think its heart is in the right place. I don't feel like this movie is like trying to do something wrong. I felt so conflicted watching this movie, especially when the beats became like conventional action beats of like scene with Armie Hammer in the elevator with a food tray, like things that like in an action movie you'd be like, oh shit, he almost got the hero. But for me, I'm just like, yeah, but they fucking mowed down like 200 people. This is terrible. Like, why am I here? Like,
but I think that like, it's not just that Armie's hammer is supposed to be important in that moment. It's that a lot of people are being gunned down without warning, and like they don't even know it's happening. They're just gunned down, and this is like the tension of trying not to be gunned. Like there is something different to it. That's not just about look at the white hero. It's there is something happening that's more. You're supposed to feel it more than just the sudden gosh, old woman, feet and arms in the air sort of moment.
Yeah, and I think you do empathize, which is why I feel conflicted, because I think this movie does pretty well what it wants to do. I just like I don't know who it's for, and I don't think I'm one of the people that it was for.
Yeah.
There are moments, especially toward the beginning of this movie, where it is cutting to news footage or ostensible news footage, and like, dear God, I hope that isn't real footage.
It felt
but also, if it's not,
real.
I also I was like, that was just a thing where it's like, you're showing me like blood and bodies and stuff, and like this really happened. And then you're cutting to the hotel where people are eating a nice dinner and they don't know what's going on yet. And it's just weird. I don't know what the like time is, the statute of limitations, where it becomes like not uncomfortable for me to watch these things depicted, because I can watch like a movie about like the Vietnam War or World War II or something, and I'm okay with that. But it's just, I don't know.
I think it's
really strange.
It's the senseless. This isn't a war film. This is a film about a senseless act, and I think that maybe changes it contextually. One thing this film starts to do towards the end, which I was sort of in my head praising it for in the early part of the film, is that like as the film started, I was very, very happy that even though the camera starts with the group of terrorists, we don't spend any time getting to know them. They're not important to us. They're just the representation of this terrorist act. And I was glad that it wasn't like, this is Bob, and look at him pick up his son from preschool, and then now he's going off to fight a terrorist thing. But then towards the end of this film, there is one of the terrorists who starts to question whether or not they're doing the right. The terrorists are doing the thing that is honorable for them. And then there's one other character who calls his dad to say he loves him. And it's like, we did not need those moments of humanizing those two characters. I mean, first of all, it's a weak humanization. And second of all, like, it was, you had already done so much work to like make them just this force. And now you're like, you want us to care about these characters. Like, it just,
to me, the problem isn't the idea of it. It's too little too late. Like, because the idea of like trying as they're grappling with, like, let me imagine, and I don't think this is true as far as the production and director and everything goes. It's like not like Indian necessarily that started this movie, but let's like imagine that it was like people in India were trying to reckon with this, right? Well, a part of reckoning might be like, let's think about like the logic behind and remember that these are also just like kids that were talked into doing something terrible because they've been like made into zealots, right? And they think that they're gonna get like their family will get money and they'll be rewarded in heaven and all of this.
Yeah.
It just feels like an hour and 45 minutes into the movie is way too late to start trying to do that.
Like in Captain Phillips, right? Like that starts with the group of pirates, right?
Yeah.
And you see that like
Paul Greengrass just like only make this kind of movie?
Pretty much. But like that starts with like from the pirates' point of view, and you see that like this one guy is about to be kind of like excommunicated because he can never do anything that's of value, and he's trying to like just make a name for himself, and he's in these like situations where like he doesn't have the best of things, right? You can see that like he feels forced in this situation, and you see that he doesn't actually want to hurt the people on the boat. He just wants to steal the boat so that he can be okay back home, right? Like, so there is a sense of like anything that's happening there is not about causing terror and hurting people. It's about a means to an end of trying to like make enough money to just survive. And like whether or not that's a good story to tell, or whether or not that's done in a way that justifies his actions, is not the point. The point is that this is, you at least know that this person was not pure evil and that they were doing a bad thing because they were forced into circumstance, right? And this is clearly, there's no circumstance here. This is just hurt others and make sure others who don't get hurt see that
I mean, there's
people.
unspoken of like poverty, and they've been promised that their family will be protected if they do this thing, right? Like that's definitely like a thing they talk about. But my problem with it is there are not many, but at least like 6 people who we see a lot throughout this movie who are perpetrating these crimes, and there's only one that we see have any of these humanizing moments, which, because like I get wanting the humanizing because otherwise it's like pretty propaganda-y in a way that is like maybe worse, but humanizing one while the others are like just laughing and enjoying it, like I just don't get what that serves. Like it just feels like it's a weird combination to me, especially because even the character who is being humanized, we are still going to want him to get comeuppance in a second. Like the beat is off too. And like, there's a moment also that I think is meant to be affecting. And if this were a true story, and again, like I know some of the guests are amalgams of real people, at least like that's what the director said. And apparently there was quite a bit of research that went into this movie. There's a moment in this movie where a character starts doing a salah, like the Muslim prayer, that is like, it's a moment that the character shares with the terrorist. If that is not true, I feel like that is such an on the nose like attempt at turning something meaningful into something that wasn't. Like, I really hope that's like an actual thing that happened, because otherwise it feels like a weird license to take to try to make it more. I get like what you said, it's trying to reckon with like themes of race and religion and stuff like that, but I don't know, just the idea of this movie being semi-true and semi-fictional about a thing that was so terrible that happened not long ago.
Yeah.
Every choice when there's a creative decision, it just leaves me in this weird conundrum of like, can I criticize that decision, and is it cheesy or necessary, or is it okay that you're doing this? Like it's just weird. It's just a very uncomfortable movie for me.
Yeah. No, agreed. So should we get to verdicts?
Sure.
All right. Stephen Miller, if you were going to give this a must-see, recommend with a caveat, wait rental, pass with a caveat, or a must-avoid, what would you give it?
I think I'm going pass with a caveat, where the pass is I don't know why to see this movie. I don't feel like I got anything positive out of it. I guess I know more about the event than I used to, and maybe like in the long run that's going to be a thing that I like feel more sympathy or compassion about. But the mix just, it was so unpleasant and uncomfortable, and I don't know how to feel, and I don't think the movie does the most responsible job of like shepherding us through like what is true and what is false. And every moment that it turns into a conventional like action intense thriller, I have this like the one feeling of, wow, this was pretty well made, and the meta feeling of like, why the fuck is this well made? Like, why? I don't know. So the caveat is like, it might be really good. It might do what it wants to do really well. I don't know why you should want to see this movie unless you have like a personal attachment to the source material and seeing the story told is like really powerful to you. To me, the fictionalization of almost everyone that matters in this movie makes the storytelling part less obvious than it would be if it were like a real person saying, this is what happened to me, let me tell you my story. So I don't know. It just leaves me feeling gross and unclear, even though I think it means well. Like, I'm not angry at the filmmaker. I don't think I don't think they're exploiting something. I just feel like confused.
In a way they are, though, because I mean, there is a character who is only in like 2 minutes of the total film, but it's like split into like a minute and a half at the beginning and then 30 seconds later on. But this character encounters these terrorists moments before the attack.
Yeah. The Australian dude, right?
No, one of the staff members.
Oh, yeah.
Before the attack begins, he has an altercation on the street with these people. And let's just say that by the end of this, he doesn't survive. Okay,
Right.
At some point, he will perish during the course of this film. If that is a real if that character, just maybe his mannerisms or something, were based on a real person, he did a solo job away from the hotel, and then later, like, it's not like he was like, oh, by the way, there were some jerks on the street and they had all these backpacks. Those backpacks, there's no connecting that. So this is purely a thing that's written.
And so I don't think that happened, right?
No, there's no way that happened. So, and even if that character went out to buy some freaking whatever the hell alcohol it was, and then came back and then got
cognac.
shot, there's no way that he encountered them, right? Like, because
it was like just their way to show that it also happened at Cafe Leopold, I think, was one other, like, they tried to find a way to show all the different places.
Yeah.
But yeah, like to me, that's an example of like, you're not doing him an honor and you're not telling his story if he is real, and you can't know all that.
It's there to make the tragicness of his death more impactful, more coincidental, more impactful, and then to give another completely different character thoughts about the situation, right? Like it's just a way to add tension to something that has plenty enough tension as it is.
Yeah.
And then I just don't really understand it. And my verdict. I mean, I think like quality wise it's probably a pass with a caveat, but there's really no reason to see this film. I definitely wouldn't recommend it. If you saw it, I would maybe ask questions of you about what you thought of certain parts. But yeah, I definitely don't think anybody needs to rush out and see it. So maybe I'll bump it down to a must avoid. Just because, yeah, like this is not even one of those films where like I would recommend it to no one, but I'm glad I saw it. It's a film that I saw and kind of bummed me out, not just because of the tone and the mood of it, but because of the choices that were made to show and depict certain things that were clearly just there to add more drama to a story that had enough drama and didn't need it. So,
and I was trying to like grapple with what is it about this kind of story in particular that the fact versus fiction thing really upsets me, because like last year or a year and a half ago, a movie I really liked was Only the Brave, which was a movie about a real tragedy and real people that gets really fucking sad. Like, it is not pulling its punches. And like, I loved that movie. I thought it was great. And I think the difference is that if you're like building real characters that are real people, or you are doing something where there are like survivors that you're honoring, I think I can go a lot further. And I get that this movie maybe is in the general because there are staff members who still work at the Taj, and this is honoring them. I just feel like if that's what it's trying to do, the weight it gives to them versus other people is not the right like levels. And I don't know. There's something about like we're being asked to sympathize with the people who are either not real and or don't make it, and it just makes me not know what it was made for.
Yeah. Agree. So I think that's probably going to do it for this review of Hotel Mumbai. So hopefully you enjoyed the review more than we enjoyed the movie. But Stephen Miller, if people want to find you throughout the week, where can they find you?
People can go to twitter.com/sdavidmiller or sdavidmiller.com.
People can find me at ChristopherInRealLife.com or twitter.com/ChristopherIRL. You can find the podcast over at thespoilerwarning.com, where you can get a bunch of the back episodes of the show. If you want to subscribe to the podcast, you can do so on Overcast, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, or wherever podcasts are found. If you want to know when the episodes go live, you can follow us at twitter.com/spoilerwarning, facebook.com/thespoilerwarning, or instagram.com/thespoilerwarning. If you want to get a hold of us directly, you can send an email to fans@thespoilerwarning.com, or you can use the contact form on our site. Music for this episode will come from the soundtrack to Hotel Mumbai, so hopefully you're enjoying that. And yeah, speaking of the soundtrack, there was one moment where they like do this diegetic thing, which is just there because somebody thought it was super fucking artistic, and it kind of made me really mad.
Well, it's also it's the cliche of a movie that is based in this part of the world too, is to have that like type of soundtrack suddenly appear and to have it be like fake diegetic in a completely unrealistic way.
But that's the thing, is there is beauty to the sound of that, which is why it's like, okay, you're like, well, it's a little cliche, but it's cool. Not cool, but like it's fine because it sounds. But then the person who is singing it flips it all. Like it just does a thing where you're like, wait a second, what? And then it just
and it's like a call to prayer sound too, which would be happening at that time of day. But it's I don't get that decision either.
Yeah. But yeah,
there can be like beauty in the sadness, right? But I don't think by that character.
Yeah, definitely not that character. But yeah, sorry to digress as we're almost out of the episode. But we will leave you now. Hopefully you enjoyed our reviews of Dumbo this week, and then also Hotel Mumbai. We'll be back next week with something. Actually, so there's one thing that should be mentioned. Just one more thing real fast is in the next 2 weeks, basically, we are going to be seeing a lot of things at the SF Film Festival. So the schedule is going to be crazy, weird. I don't know when episodes are going to be coming out, because I know at least I have like 15 straight days of movies with like maybe one day off, and then somewhere in there.
And whenever I like am not seeing a movie, it's because I'm going to be like traveling.
So the next few weeks will be crazy. If you want to get crazy,
we can get crazy.
The next few weeks will be pretty crazy schedule. You will not be able to see some of the things that we're talking about. Some of the things you will be, because literally Steven and I booked a bunch of films, and then I went and saw The Hummingbird Project, which is also in your feed like a few episodes ago, and literally half those movies played as trailers before.
They're all coming out soon.
Yeah, so these films,
some very soon, like maybe like a week after we see them.
Maybe even the same week we see it. But so this is not quite going to be like Tribeca last year, where like some of those films still aren't out. This is going to be like, soon you will see them, so hopefully you enjoy those episodes.
Some you will probably never see, though.
Also, we will definitely be recording them in our studio and not like hunched around a table in an apartment in New York at 3 a.m. So hopefully those will be full, nice, normal episodes. Hopefully,
and we're going to fit Shazam in there somehow, I think.
Yeah, and then also, when all that is said and done, Avengers Endgame will be here, I think. So, I mean, you got lots to look forward to. But yeah, all right, we'll be back next week.
Bye.